This is the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Dory Stewart.
Welcome back to another episode of the FXBG Neighbors Podcast, where we share the stories of our favorite local brands. I have a special guest joining me today. We've got Britt Valentine, and she is with Valentine Financial Group. Britt, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I am really excited about this. I'm excited to learn about you and about your business. So let's start there. Share with us, what is Valentine Financial Group?
Sure. It's a brokerage. I'm a life insurance broker. So Valentine Financial Group is just the name for our local brokerage. Basically, we help people put protection in place for all the things that they've worked so hard for in their entire life. We've specialized in life insurance and also life insurance as an investment vehicle. The truth is, I hear stories all the time on my end, since I sit, at the table with folks every day, all day, and then my team does. We're really just one unexpected event away from potentially losing, our home for our family and things like that. Most people treat life insurance, like it's optional. We insure our homes and our cars and our cell phones because, we have to, or we think that's, those cell phones do cost a lot. But my job and my agents, our job is to make sure that people understand, have protection in place, and make the decision before it's too late for their family.
Amazing. You're such an important part of so many people's lives. Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to learn more about you. Tell me about your background and how did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story. So I have spent my career in mental health counseling. Actually, that's where I met my husband. We used to work together. I had a 10-year plan. I was a school counselor right out of college and did that for 10 years. Moved into community-based private mental health, working with teens and adolescents and their families. Have some postmasters in marriage and family therapy. So, then I went back to working in schools and was going to do, 10 years there. So my entire career and lifetime was working with families and adolescents. So I kind of fell into this. I was looking for something on the side to kind of bolster our own retirement and start building a business, just for the advantages of having a business for myself and my family, and maybe to pass down to our boys. I actually sat as a client. So I was on the receiving end of doing some retirement planning and things like that, and how we can use life insurance as that vehicle. And since I had been looking for something, I'm sitting there as a client and I had that aha moment of, this is it, because I still get to work with families and I'll still be helping. And it's very much, heart forward work, but maybe not the heaviness of mental health. So it was a different avenue, and yet so in line with, just who I am and how I want to help people and serve and give back. So that's kind of how I ended up adding this in. And then I just made a transition full time into the business not too long ago. So I've been doing it like 3 years, and then full time, just within this past year, I had to make some changes that were, important.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on finding something that you love and that is working within, your lifestyle. And I come from a teaching background, so I understand the kind of wanting to transition into something, and get into something that's not quite so heavy.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm coming out of education. It's interesting that you say that, you have a teaching background. It's a very different setting. I found myself somewhere that wasn't very positive, and that was kind of the hard part for me in making the jump here full time. But, work environments are everything. They really are. They impact we spend more time at work than we do, in the day with our families. So I had found myself in the last few years in a situation that was very emotionally draining. It was changing who I was. I wasn't, authentically myself anymore. I was kind of trying to shrink to please others. And I just had to get really honest one day and say, this is not good for me. It's not good for the kids I was working with anymore, in the school setting. And yeah, I just walking away from a full-time job and a W-2 and a career that I had spent decades doing was a challenge, and it was really scary. But sometimes you just have to do what your gut is telling you is right, even though maybe you don't have it all figured out.
Yeah. Well, I love that you say that, because I think a lot of the listeners can relate to that. Sometimes you have to just, do what's best for you, even though it's really hard and you don't quite have it figured out yet. You'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
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 So what are some myths or misconceptions that you hear about what you do?
The biggest one that I want to make sure that I say is, misconception is that life insurance is optional. I grew up that way too. I think that these are things that we don't even learn in school. And I learned that through mental health and counseling and, marriage and family therapy. The way we show up in the world comes from our family of origin. So what they taught us about, rules and boundaries and whatever translates over to finances. So what we know about finances, or sort of our concept, comes from what our parents taught us, either because we follow that or we kind of go against it, right? I'm going to do what my parents did because it looked really good, or I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be like them. And life insurance is one of those things. Like I said, we insure our cars and our cell phones, and very few people have life insurance. They think it's optional, or, oh, I have it at work. Well, we never know. I'm a perfect example of when that job is leaving us or when we're leaving that job. So that's kind of a bonus. We call that the icing on the cake. But people really need insurance in place for themselves and their families. If anyone depends on you emotionally or financially, you need to have life insurance in place. For example, Dory, a lot of people think, well, if I'm a stay-at-home parent, I don't need it because I'm not creating an income. But think about all the things that those stay-at-home parents do that suddenly you might have to outsource and pay someone to do, right? They work hard at home, so they need the coverage as well. I think people also think it's really expensive, or that it's one of those things that's kind of a luxury or a waste of money. I think that's just misinformation. The way we, work with clients, really consultative, and because we're a brokerage, we have access to, 30 different carriers and can really shop around for people. There's always a solution. Maybe people think it's expensive because they think they need more than they need. And that's really our job, is to kind of be problem solvers and sort of figure out the need and help them, see that it's more of an asset than it is a liability.
Is there an ideal time when people should contact you? Like, is there, are you ever too young, So
No, I was to say yesterday, right? Because
yesterday.
it's always cheaper because we were a day younger.
Right.
No, we do policies. The term in the industry, they're called $1 million babies. And when you start a policy, a certain type of policy, when the kids are young, it does, grow cash value for them into retirement that is tax-free, where, depending on how much you're putting in, they can have $1 million of tax-free retirement. It kind of is like creating them a pension. Pensions don't really exist. We get them in the education world, but, they don't really exist in most jobs. But yeah, you're never too young. And the truth of the matter is, insurance gets more expensive as we get older, and or have health issues. I sat with a man last week. He had a heart attack at 40. Oh, wow. If he'd had his coverage in place prior to that, his cost would have been very different than what we were able to put in place for him now, because that's in his medical history. So the other thing is the policies that we work with have what's known as living benefits, which means, for example, Dory, if you had one and you do suffer a heart attack, a cancer diagnosis, something like that, you actually get to use the policy while you're alive. And it helps, cover expenses during that time. So there's my 20-year-olds are like, why do I need it? Well, you need it now while you're healthy. You need it to protect yourself, and you need to kind of, like we do with our mortgage, we always want to lock in a rate. Basically, you're doing the same thing. You're locking in that really good rate. So, yeah.
That's a great analogy. I'm really glad that you talked about that. And I didn't know that in a lot of policies that you can use it, the living benefits. So that's really good to know. And
Yeah.
you also mentioned something about using it, kind of as retirement or investment. So
Yeah.
educate me about that. I don't know much about that.
Sure.
Can it be used as investment?
Yeah. So we have a certain collection of, policies. They're participating whole life. You get dividends and cash value grows inside of them, similar to a stock market, but these are index funds. And all that means is you never lose the money. So if a stock market dips and you have stock investments, you're if you had to cash it out, I mean, you're under, right? So there's a zero floor, but you get the gains. So over time, that really does grow. For example, a 23-year-old who has one of those and is maybe putting in $200 to $300, that cash value grows to like $1.8 million by the time they're 65. And then they can tap into that themselves, that cash value, and either just give themselves an income every year or cash it and do whatever they want with it. Somewhere over that timeline of that 23-year-old, that down payment for a house, they can take some value, out of their cash value that's grown. It kind of creates a bucket of money. It's almost like your own savings account. You can buy a car instead of paying finance to the bank. Take $18,000 out, go buy yourself a car. So it's really a unique vehicle, and a lot of people don't know about it. Again, that's why we do a lot of education around those things. Walt Disney, Roy McDonald, Warren Buffett, they've used those types of policies for years to fund, Disney used it to purchase the property where, the beautiful theme park is now. So it's kind of creating your own bucket and bank of money inside of it.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I think a
Sure.
lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, no, it's not new. So the thing is, the wealthy know about it and the rest of
Mm,
us don't. And that's why we
mhm.
like to do so much education, so that because everybody has access, you don't have to be wealthy to have one of those policies. Like I said, depending on when you start, a couple $100 a month really grows money for you. So
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So if someone listening is inspired by what you're doing and they're thinking about getting into life insurance and doing what you're doing, what advice would you give them?
just yeah, do it.
Hmm.
um, what I'll say is environment matters, right? I mentioned
Mm,
that before. Where you work, you can make a good income, build a career in life insurance. There's lots of places you can go. You want to make sure you find a home and a brokerage that feels good and fits for you, because who you surround yourself with and who you work with, even though you might be independent, really makes a difference. And, I'm surrounded here by such a high caliber of people that they constantly challenge me to grow and to do more and to be more, and in a way that feels very fun. That's like
mhm,
friendly competition sometimes, but
mhm.
it's more about that connection and building together.
Nice. It sounds like you're in an inspiring environment.
I love it. I love it.
Nice, nice. So, what is something that you wish the listeners knew about Valentine Financial Group?
Um, I think sometimes this industry is like, there are people who shy away from saying I'm a life insurance agent or I'm a life insurance broker, like it's a conversation killer.
Hmm.
And I guess that's true of anything you do that's sort of related to sales, but we're not about sales. This is about protecting families, providing peace of mind. Like I said, we come from a counseling background. There's no one here that really started, with their little plaque in fifth grade. I want to grow up and be a life insurance agent. We've all found ourselves here for purpose and with servant, mindset. So I think a lot of times people feel like we're going to be selling them something, and it really isn't that. We have conversations, we look for problems, we help solve problems. And the industry, I think, sometimes has that kind of, misconception, or probably rightfully so. There are probably, I do talk to, I sit with 20 some families a week, and I do hear stories from them too about, it's like, so they have a policy, and I'm like, okay, what's your agent's name? And they're like, I don't know. I got it 5 years ago. And I'm like, you've never heard from them since. So we are very boutique in that way. And I think truly every broker or agent should be. But we have 6-month and annual reviews with our families. I mean, they become part of our family, and we're with them to celebrate. You have to understand, in life insurance, there will be the day that death claim comes, and that family's going to call you, and you have to walk them through that and make sure that, they're taken care of. So there's a relationship there that we've developed with the families, and that's what I love about it.
I can feel that from you, and you are uniquely positioned given your background to do this. So congratulations on all your success. If the listeners are interested in connecting with you, they want to learn more from you, how can they find you?
Yeah. The best way is, we've set up our website and socials under Valentine Financial Group. Also have, like I said, all the socials, LinkedIn, everything. And then I have my own, socials at the Britt Valentine. So connecting that way is probably the easiest way to find us.
Amazing. Britt, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today and sharing Valentine Financial Group with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to fxbgneighborspodcast.com.